Hey everyone, welcome back to Offhaus Brewing. Today we're doing a hefeweiss. Oktoberfest is coming up. I'm planning on having a small little get together, and I've already got a German Pils, I've already got a Fest beer, and a Vienna lager going. So this is just kind of a way to round out, call it the Oktoberfest portfolio. So what I'm going to do is, of course, do it the hardest way possible. I'm not only going to do a decoction mash, I'm going to do a triple decoction mash. I have done this before. I'll leave the link in the notes below just so it's easy if you want to go check that out, because I'm not going to go through every little step to do this. Really, it's just kind of more of a, hey, this is a hefeweiss brew day, so we're going to kind of walk through the whole thing. So it's a little different, obviously, than a regular brew day. I am going to mash in at 113 degrees Fahrenheit. So doing the research on how to do this style, the traditional way or the best way, where you really get a balance between clover and banana. Getting it at 113, 112 is kind of the spot where you either get ferulic acid, I think that's how you pronounce it, production, or the precursors to getting that. I don't exactly know the biochemistry behind it, but that is what produces that clove note. I think with the style, a lot of people, when you ferment it, either try to ferment it high, ferment it low, stress the yeast, do a bunch of, I guess, shortcuts, if you will, to trying to get both of those, and usually you only get one or the other. So this, I've done a bunch of research on this, so hopefully it hits that mark. We'll eventually get some kind of tasting for this. Hopefully when I have a couple friends who have a little better palate for this particular style than I do. But this should be the clove part. The yeast is also going to help push the banana part, and I'm going to do something that probably isn't what most home brewers do. I'm going to ferment at 62 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe you can push the banana if you ferment higher, but I think there's also some other esters or phenols that come out, or risk to have those come out, that I don't want. It's only going to maybe take another day or two. I have the ability to control it at 62, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to get strike water hot. I've got another pot over here for my decoction. I've got another pot over here for the extra water that I'm going to have basically almost boiling, or pretty much boiling, just in case when I pull the decoction and introduce it back into the mash, my temperature doesn't hit where I want it to. That can be a problem with this type of thing. I'm using Beersmith to calculate those numbers. I don't know that it's going to be right. The last time I did this, I was a little bit low, so I think what I'm going to do is pull more than what Beersmith suggests for the decoction, so I know that I can get a higher temperature, because I'm trying to go from 113 and get up to, I think, 147, 148, so that's going to be a pretty big pull for this level. I think the mash tun's going to be just about, I don't know, maybe a quarter full, a third full by the time I do the first pull. Subsequent pulls, the temperature range is a little bit smaller, so I'm not really too concerned about that. So it's going to be a fun brew day. It's going to be a long brew day. Hopefully the effort is worth it. So I'm going to get to it, and we'll check back in when I'm there. So with the decoction, and I'm sorry for the fan noise, but I have to have that on for obvious reasons. You have to stir constantly when you're doing this. So this is part of the day, why I said that it's kind of a sucky day. I did take a picture before the first decoction, and then I'll probably take another one after all of it's done. So hopefully we can see the change in color. The other thing is, I was wrong. It's not a triple decoction. It is a double decoction. I'm going to just heat up some sparge water to mash out. I don't want this to get too dark. I'm only getting this up to a boil. I'm going to boil it for about 10 minutes at each step. Again, I don't want it to get too much color, but I do want some Maillard reaction to take place. Also, in one of these kind of mashes, whether it's a step mash or a decoction, oftentimes there's a protein rest. But I think that's a little more of a traditional thing, because most of the malt that we use is modified to the point where it's not necessary, so I'm not doing that. I do not have, you can buy under malted grain. under modified grain, excuse me, but I didn't do that. So I'm not doing that. Plus it's an extra step that I don't want to do. So I believe in efficiency in a lot of the stuff I do, which is sort of ironic given what I'm doing. However, this is a necessary evil. So this is just a point to say, keep stirring it. There will be color change, and like I said, we'll check back in a little bit when we make the second pull. All right, so Beersmith asked for 8 quarts. I pulled 9 quarts-ish. It's kind of a rough measurement of basically the thickest part of the mash. The stuff that's going to hold the most heat. So basically, it's all green. Use strainer, and I was short on temperature, even though I pulled more. So I did have to add a gallon of boiling water. I'm right at 148, 149, so that nailed it. My next pull says 3.24 quarts. I'm gonna actually probably pull 5, maybe a little bit more. I am supposed to sparge with 3 gallons of water. So now, because I added a gallon, I need to pull that off of the sparge calculation. So it's really going to be more like 2, even though I don't know that that's the best way to do it. Even though I don't have very much grain in here, it'll work, but I might just make this one large pull. I'm not sure yet, but I think probably the smart thing is to just say, let's pull 5 quarts, maybe 5.5 or 5.25, so pull extra. So I get up to 156, and hopefully I hit that, and I'll have just a little extra sparge water, so maybe it's a little more of a boil, which maybe isn't the worst thing in the world. Just adds time to the brew day. So I think the lesson learned here is, keep good notes if you're going to do something like this, because these calculators are only so good. I mean, your traditional, German brewers or brewers from the past, they turn that off. They obviously had recipes and they had that stuff nailed. I did the best that I could. I probably could have made a much bigger pull and pulled in some of the liquid, because basically there was pretty much only liquid left. I did keep my mash tun as insulated as possible, so I probably dropped a few degrees, which didn't help during the actual decoction. So live and learn. But I did take a photo of even after the first 10-minute, which was really a little more than that because you had to bring the temperature up with the 10-minute boil, and there definitely is a temperature or a color difference. Hopefully, as I'm saying this, I'll be able to have a graphic, down here that will kind of show the difference. And then when I make the next pull, I want to try to do the same thing, kind of do it before and after, just thinking show the difference. But one thing to note is that even though, I pulled the grain, I had basically 10 pounds of grain, plus or minus, in the mash tun and 5 gallons of water that I was using as a strike. So maybe I get smarter in the future and I don't take that much, like a 2 quarts to pound ratio. And although I'm told that that's the way to do it, is to make that a lot more water than you normally would. But that's definitely going to affect the heat transfer when I have that much mash water, that much mash water compared to how much that I'm pulling. So maybe that's where the adjustment is. So the next time I do one of these, I'm going to plan on doing a Helles probably over the winter. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll change that ratio so there's less water left over. So this, as I'm taking my decoction and pulling it back in, just has that much bigger of an impact. So I'm going to put these notes into Beersmith, so I'm smart about this, and we'll check back on the next pull. So I made the second pull. I did add about 5 quarts of the pull. It was higher than what was predicted by Beersmith. I got it up to 152, 154, held that for 30 minutes, brought it to a boil, introduced it back, and I did have to add another about half a gallon of water to get it up to the 155, 156 range. So like I said earlier, I'll make some adjustments for next time, but I do have some sparge water that I'm going to heat up very shortly because I didn't get all of the total amount of water that I'm going to need for the batch. So I'm lautering now. This is going to go on, and then bring it out and we'll get to the boil. Simple as that. We're at the boil. I had a bit of a stuck sparge, not real bad, but enough where it was a bit of a pain. I don't normally make 54-55% wheat beers, so I don't really have to worry about this. I did use a 1/4 pound of rice hulls. Probably should have used a 1/2 pound, but it just seemed like a lot as I was weighing it out, so I cut it back. Mistakes. Oh well, that's okay. I got to after my final decoction, so everything worked good. I heated up a bunch of water, a bunch of sparge water, made all my mineral additions, which was particularly light based on the water that I use. My tap water is pretty soft. It doesn't really have much mineral content in it, so I only had to add calcium chloride, which was odd that I had to add very little. Which makes you think at some point I'll probably dig into that because I think that's a hot topic, amongst homebrewers is water and how you deal with it, and I found that it's made a pretty good change in a lot of the beers that I made. So we're boiling now. I did collect a little bit too much. pH didn't get too bad. I didn't. I'm not worried about sparge getting too far off of pH. So I'm in a good spot there. And it's just a hot summer day in Wisconsin. I'm gonna say I'm having a nice. You can see this Kid Kolsch from New Glarus. If you don't live in Wisconsin or in a neighboring state, it's too bad that you can't get this because honestly, this is fantastic. This is like the perfect hot weather brew day beer. So I'm gonna finish with a boil. All I've got is Hallertauer Mittelfrueh, hop additions, a handful of them along the way, and I'm pitching dry yeast. I don't remember the number, but it's the Saf Ale version of 3068. I'm going to pitch the whole thing. I know that there's some people who want to underpitch. Personally, I feel like you need to give the beer the best chance at a good, clean fermentation. I'm not worried about overpitching. I'm not worried about it running too hot because I'm going to be putting this in my fermentation chamber at 62 degrees. Yes, I said it before, I will reiterate it again, 62 degrees. From what I understand, and I am no expert at using this yeast, so I'm kind of going on to anecdotal evidence based on a lot of research that I did going into this beer, that you don't need to push it hot to get the esters that you're looking for. Okay, it's 62. That's the number. Just do it. Trust it. I say that now. That's, of course, having not drank it yet, but that's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going to do. I will post the recipe below. I'll try to post some of the steps that I did because it's sometimes difficult to follow. I may have made a minor little mistake, but I'll try to correct that in the notes. Do like other YouTube geeks, ask for and subscribe and like this and share it and stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to not become a YouTube celebrity, obviously, because that's never going to happen. And no, I'm not a paid sponsor by any, certainly not these guys. I not nearly have enough followers for that. But I have found that this is a really fun project. So if you subscribe and you follow and you watch this, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully it is helpful to you. I found a number of other people who kind of inspired me to do this, that it's really beneficial to kind of see what they do and potentially learn from their mistakes. Happy Saturday, happy, 8 millionth day of COVID-19, and salud. I'm not sure if I'm gonna wait and clip on the tasting notes after this, because I think that's still, probably a month away. So I'll probably just put this out. Here's sort of the methodology, and then kind of do a tasting after the fact. Maybe we'll do some of the tasting of all of the German beers that I mentioned earlier. So if I don't wait for that, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers. So I'm getting ready for another brew day, and I realized that I made kind of a critical mistake on something that I really wanted to do to kind of close out this Hefe video. It's all gone. I had some people over, we did an Oktoberfest thing, between that and how much I just drank sitting on the kegerator, and it's gone. But I can tell you this. So it started at 1050, it finished at 5.5%, so that's right in range. I continued to ferment at 62. I did so for about 2.5 weeks before I kind of slowly raised it up to 64, and eventually I brought it up to room temp, which right now my basement is about 68. It was everything that I honestly thought it would be. I don't normally make this style, mostly because I don't particularly care for it a whole lot, but I know a lot of people really do. My girlfriend loves it, so there was no reason not to do it. The double decoction, totally worth it. There is just this nice, thick mouthfeel, had the perfect level of haze. The clove level, I particularly, when I drink this style, like a little more clove than banana, and it accentuated that just enough. I do think that if you wanted to pull a little more banana, you could ferment out closer to 66 or 68 F, and you'd probably get that. But I really, truly believe that ferulic acid rests around that 112, 113 range, really sets that precursor for that clove character. So I know it's kind of, we're getting almost into October, and most people probably don't want to drink a Hef, into the winter. But I'll tell you what, follow the process. It is worth the effort if you want something that truly is world class. I had on for an Oktoberfest thing, I had a Fest beer, I had a Vienna Lager, I had a German Pilsner, and I had the Hefe all on. And the Hefe was the first thing that went. People kept going back for liters of it at a time. So I'll put the recipe down below. I'll try to kind of line out to you, at least in the notes, somewhat of where the decoction pulls were and approximately the amount of volume that I pulled, because I know it's sometimes it may be a little difficult to follow, in a video kind of thing. But I'm telling you, it was pretty much dynamite. I might consider making it over the winter, specific for a contest that I do, or because I think that, or a competition, because I think this is Melanoiden. So sorry that I didn't do that. The clanking around you might hear is my dog. He's come to investigate the brew day. So happy brewing, and I will see you next time.